Welcome, everyone, to another session of Being at Home with George. And it's exciting to be here. And at the same time, I have this sense that reality is setting in, and we know that things have changed in a fundamental way. And it could be very unsettling. It could be feeling like, okay, so where do we go from here? And how do we relate to the situation in a way that keeps us feeling hopeful and feeling like we can make a difference. And so for me, it's interesting. I've been reflecting on it, and my perspective is that as we talk about the possibility of holding the hurt and generating the hope, I look at the possibility that things can't be the same. We talk about going back to school, some of us going back to work, some of us, whether we're ever going to a movie theater or into a large gathering, especially a sporting event, there's just so much uncertainty there. And I realize that what is required is bringing this sense of wonder, this sense of being on an adventure, this sense of, okay, how do we make it better? How do we get creative? And the only way we can do that, from my experience, is we need a process, we need a way of being. And it's interesting because I like to talk about this idea of in my own development, I've had access to good friends. Some people call those teachers. And then we would have these what I would call suitable conversations about how to live this life in a way where we're connected with spirit. We don't lose our humanity. And so having good friends and suitable conversation, and then having lessons or teachings that when we talk about, okay, these are the teachings. How do I manifest those teachings in my life, my daily life, as Freud would say, in work, love, and play? And so I've been doing this coming up on a couple of weeks, 36 years. And I feel like it's more needed now than ever. And the interesting thing about it is the same process that I was engaged in beginning 36 years ago, the basic fundamentals, I am continuing to engage in them even now. And it reminds me of my work with working with Phil Jackson's teams, where I remember there was a situation where they were filming, ESPN were filming the Lakers, and the commentators were saying to Kobe, well, you guys all you do is do basic fundamentals. And Kobe said, yeah, that's what wins championships, basic fundamentals. So the basic fundamentals that I've identified with that help me is what I call the five superpowers. And I lay out that process in my book, The Mindful Athlete. And about a year ago, we launched the Mindful Athlete online course. And so basically, the way I look at the five superpowers is it reminds me of my days when I was at UMass Amherst, and we had this huge campus. And on the campus, we had this place called the plant that generated all of the power that this whole place needed. And so for us, we have a power plant too. And these five superpowers helps me to generate the power in my own power plant for my superpowers. And that is by generating those powers that I have the power to do things. Because to me, when I got in recovery 36 years ago, my basic dilemma was a lack of power. And so I discovered that whether you call it a higher power or God or divine spark or whatever, it was about me understanding that I have a masterpiece. I have a divine spark. I have a Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's through practicing these basic fundamentals. And those superpowers allow me to access power, and allows me to be present and also to be able to perform at a high level, and at the same time not forget who I am. So I've organized the five superpowers in a way that enhances our ability to apply them in daily life. And they are mindfulness, trust, insight, concentration, diligence, or effort. So I've been reflecting on this for the last year and thinking about, okay, so how do I share this process I've been engaged in for 36 years in 2 weeks with other people? And it's this idea of I launched the course last June 19th. So there's people that have been in the course, but now I'm relaunching it with this focus on this 6-week intensive. So folks who have already bought the course, they don't have to rebuy it. They have access to it. But it's what I'm doing is I'm creating a virtual community where I'm actually going to be doing the course with people in real time, lifetime, and then once a week getting on a call with all the participants who are interested in getting on the call and talking about how the week went and how we're implementing these spiritual powers into our life, and of course having a Q&A. So I've never done this before, and I don't know if anybody's ever done it, but I feel like it's a good time to do it. And I had planned on doing this, but when COVID hit, and with me getting on these calls every Thursday, I've been talking about the theory a lot. And now it's really more about what's the practical application. And so how to do it in real time, how to share what I'm getting so that other people can understand from my experience, strength, and hope what's possible for them. And so it's just this idea of this, and it's a lifetime purchase. And of course, it takes something. So it takes effort, and it takes an understanding of, what do I want? Am I really worth it? Am I really going to figure out how to hold the hurt and generate the hope even more now? Because as the reality sets in, that some of my student athletes, I work with a field hockey team, and some of my student athletes live in New Zealand and Australia, and their season just got canceled. So they're not going to play at all in the fall and hopefully in the spring, but they're seniors. And so how do they manage this where they keep pushing on, keep not denying the hurt, but generating the hope? And as we've been talking about over the weeks, is making the shift from doing to being. So how do I need to be now so that when I do get back on the pitch, when I do get back to work, when I do get back to my job, or when I do get back to interacting with people, I've created this possibility of me being ready from day one to hit the ground running and to be more loving, to be more compassionate, and to actually have more experiences of what I call pure performance, performing in a way beyond the self, beyond fears and desires, but just coming from a place of love. And so to me, it's really important that I keep trying to explore how can we be with reality and be with ourselves in a way where we find ourselves and that we get out of ourselves to serve others. And to me, I've been seeing that in certain places, like in the protests and whatnot. And always for me is when I interact with people, can I be more kind? Can I be more present? Can I be more loving? So that becomes a way of being. So when we really think about this process, it won't be for everyone, but just to make an offering and at least just share my experience of how I'm doing this, holding the hurt and generating the hope, but also really being willing to be creative in terms of how am I going to deal with the next thing? How am I going to be present? How am I going to still be in this joyful journey of discovery, self-discovery, and how we can be and how can we use this time to actually raise up all boats and to understand, even though we might be in our separate boats in the storm, that there's a way we can stay connected with each other and that we can lift all boats. So originally, we were going to launch the course today on the 16th, but we decided to take another week because we really wanted to shore up some things. And also, I have a podcast coming up with Dan Harris, 10% Happier. I think we're going to do it on Wednesday. So I'm not sure if it's live or not, but I feel like it's really important to have things aligned in a way where everyone is, we're on a high, we're engaging in conversations about this stuff so that it just makes more sense for it. And so the card is open now, and it'll be open a week beyond. But my intention of offering this course is really about, like I said before, creating a virtual space for people, a virtual community, but also for people who have had the course for a year or more, or have just used to just going through things once and then being done with it, instead of realizing, no, it's better together. And it's what we call circular learning. Each time I go through the modules, each time I wrote my book and I read it 41 times, each time I go through it, I get something else. So it becomes a meditation, it becomes a reminder, it becomes a way of grounding experience with theory to really get really clear about what we're doing and how it's working. And for me, the proof is in the eating of the pudding, where I have access to so much enthusiasm and power now, 36 years later, that I never thought that I'd have that kind of access. But I continue to grow my power plant, and I have more access to power.